Man, it's good to see you guys. Happy New Year. We are in 2016. Can you believe we are in 2016? Seriously? I mean, anybody? Do you remember when we used to sing the song, if you're as old as me, Party Like It's 1999? Yeah, and you used to think, 1999, that's like so far away, that's never going to happen. Anybody else remember thinking that? Right? Some of you are like, I was born in 19... Just shut up. Because nobody wants to talk to you right now. Actually, my son was born in 2000. He's 50's work. Like, try to have a children's, like ministry of any kind when you have 12 total people coming to church and 29 kids. It was a nightmare, right? But we would shove them in that room and ignore them as best we could because they were, hollering and beating each other, and all that stuff. We would ignore them and try to do a Bible study. And God allowed us at our first Easter service, we had 100 people. And by September, we started with about 250. This last year, we've averaged between 5 and 550 people a week. Now, I say that to say this. A year ago, January, we were averaging somewhere around 350 to 400 people a week. So in 1 year, we've gone up about 25% in growth, which tells you that God is doing something kind of peculiar here, right? We never set out to grow in number. Like, number's not like what I focus on. What I focus on is what we came here for. And here's what we came for. When I moved here in 2013, here's what I said. I want to go somewhere and affect an area that really needs Christ. And here's what we found. We found an area that at the last census, just Troy, Missouri, not Wentzville, not O'Fallon, St. Charles, Moscow Mills, or any of the surrounding towns, but we found an area that had 17,000 people just in the town of Troy on the last census, and 1,600, and I can get this board member sitting right in the front row, 1,660 about in just the junior high. So 10% of the town's last census is sitting in the junior high school. And so as we sat down, we said, hey, how do we want to affect people? We said, we want to go after the family. We are going to be culturally relevant. We're going to be somebody who says something applicational to people that they can take home and they can use in their families, while at the same time holding a biblical standard that we're not going to change what God says in the Bible to make people fit into our church. We're going to bring them as they come, meet them where they are, but not allow them to stay there if they're struggling. And so we set out on that journey, okay? Now, I want to take today, and I want to kind of, first of all, tell you where that journey has taken us. Then I want to show you where I think that journey has you and I together working as one. And then I want to take you to the very end and show you what God has to come in 2016. In about 2 weeks, we're going to start a series called Baggage. It's going to be phenomenal. I really encourage you guys to be already praying and thinking about that. We're going to deal with how baggage can affect a family or affect a person as they come to know God. For example, one of them is a guy who had an estranged relationship with his dad. Okay, so having a estranged relationship with his dad affects how he looks at God, right? And how did he navigate through that? And how can you navigate through that? We're going to look at possibly what it's like to have family that are going in the opposite direction that you are. We're going to look at possibly what it looks like to be 30 and single. We're going to look at a lot of different things, right, that can create baggage as we walk into our walks. But today, I want to stay on this idea of vision. So, here's what I would tell you. This is our third January in existence, okay? After 3 Januaries, here's what God has done. I told you the number stuff, but it pales in comparison to what's happened. Every Friday night, we have a Celebrate Recovery that is reaching people in droves. We started with, 0 a year ago? And this last Christmas, we had close to 100. Right? And it's nothing to have 100 on any given Friday night. And Tuesday night, we're helping them in Bible study. We're seeing these people's lives change. We're baptizing them. We're getting them a relationship with God. It's restoring families. I've watched families come back together. God is doing some really cool stuff in that area. We're getting ready at the end of this month, 2 weeks from now, to send 17 people to Guatemala, which is our major orphanage that we service down in Guatemala. And we're going to send 17 people down there to do ministry for about an 8-day period of time. We're going to send a group back to Oklahoma, where we just came from last summer. We are in the process of getting off the ground our foster to adopt ministry. I know that we just raised $2,200, and in February we're going to do a huge event with the help of the Heights to get to minister to families and to kids who are in the foster system. God is doing some really cool stuff here. In the last year and a half or 2 years, we've baptized somewhere between 100 and 150 people, where God is just changing people's lives. And it's cool to be a part of. And here's what I would say. It would be very easy for a church to sit back and go, man, God's done some cool stuff. Let's just take a deep breath. Whew. Right? It'd be very easy for us as a church to go, man, why do we need to do any more? I mean, we've accomplished so much. Let's just kind of sit back. Let's relax. Let's just kind of grow as this holy huddle. Let's just have our own little relationship thing. Let's do this thing. Let's just stay real close and calm and connective. And here's what I would tell you to that. It is the most dangerous threat to a church that you will ever experience, because the moment a church starts to relax and quits growing, it does the opposite. It starts dying. Think about your life, right? You ready for a depressing note, adults? The moment you hit puberty, you start going through what? Changes, right? Right? Yeah? Okay. Some of you looking like me crazy. Some of these people totally understand. But here's what I say. You get to the point of about 18, 19 years old, and that whole growth thing ends. And you know what ends up happening? Now you start the opposite direction, right? And when you stop growing, you start the process of slowly dying. Everybody depressed now? All right. I don't want to see that happen as a church, right? What God has done, God has just begun. We have so many things left to do. There's so many people in this town, in this county, that we still have a chance and opportunity to affect. And I want to be, as a church, right at the forefront of that. I don't know if you get this. We have an opportunity as a church to affect this county like no other church has ever affected a county in this area in the life of it. And we're going to do that by affecting the lives of families, by helping people get out of addictions, by helping dads be dads, and helping moms support dads and be moms, by helping dads support moms. And I just want to take families, and I want to help us to take them to a level they've never been. And so as a church, our goal today is to look at exactly how we're going to do that. If you got your Bible, do me a favor. Go to the book of Corinthians. We're going to be in chapter 12. We're going to be in verse 14, okay? I had a horrible experience this weekend. We have, some of you guys know my story, some of you guys don't. I'm just going to tell you and act like you don't know it, okay? But here's my story. In the last 7 months, we have taken in one foster child. His name is Isaac. We've adopted one foster child. His name is Titus, okay? And that has happened in about a series of the last 7 weeks, okay? And I say all that to say this, okay, is that it goes pretty well, but it's kind of hectic having 2 little boys, one 12 months, one 8 months, and then one 15 and one 12. It makes for some crazy moments, right? None crazier than this week when my wife decides she has to get the flu. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden, I had to spring into action, right? I had to become mom, and I'm not good at that, right? And so over here, I'm like, get out of the toilet water. And then I'm over here, quit eating the tree. And then I'm over here doing this, and I'm doing that. And I'm like, this one's pooping himself, and this one's puking himself. And oh my gosh, this one's putting his finger in the light socket, and this one over here. And I'm going nuts. I'm like, I did not sign up for this, right? And my wife would come down the stairs like dead sick sometimes, lean around the corner. Are you okay? Oh yeah, I'm good. Life is good, right? Man, I am feeding him. I got one of them. Every single time you feed him, he goes, ah! He gets all excited about his food. And so when you put the fork in, he goes, wham! And food everywhere. And then I turn my head to talk to one of my other sons, my older sons, and as I turn, I have the plate in my hand full of chicken and like chopped up corn, or carrots rather. It's a nasty concoction. And I turn this way, and the little boy goes, bam! And seriously? And then I go, ah! Why'd you do that? And then my wife comes downstairs and she goes, why are you hollering at him? It's pretty obvious. There's chicken and carrots all over the ground. And man, by the end of that day, I never slept so good. And I say all that to say this, and this is what we're going to get into. God has done some incredible stuff at NorthRoad. God is in the process of doing incredible stuff. The reason we are dealing with size issues is because God has done incredible stuff. But I think we face some threats, okay? And let me tell you what those threats are, and then I'm going to explain to you why I just told you that story about my wife. Here's the threats. We've grown incredibly fast. That growth has made it hard for people sometimes to find a place to sit down and be in the main service. That has created a hard time for people to connect. Sometimes finding a place where they just connect, find their place to serve. Here's another thing it can create if we're not careful. Like a lot of churches, you can get to a point where you can go, hey, in my life, I'm fine with where we're at, and I'd just rather sit back, and I'd just rather become complacent. And complacency creates this. It creates gossipy behavior, because you go from being a person that is about what God is going to do versus a person who is to a person who is looking at what God has done and really could care less about what God's going to do next. And all of a sudden, everything kind of looks more negative. And I have seen church after church after church after church that has watched its slow demise because they have fallen into that complacency. And as I give you this vision today, okay, I want you to see through this story that I just told you about my wife, I want you to see that we all have to step up. And we have to take our role in this vision so that we do not allow our church to fall like so many other churches have fell into a place of complacency. Why do I tell you that story about my wife? Here's why. I'm a member of the family, right? If your kids get sick, what do? Or if your wife gets sick, you rise up, you take care of the kids. If your kids get sick, you rise up, you take care of the kids. That's just what people do. Why? Because you are an owner in the company, right? I'm an owner in the company of Bartig, okay? And I have to make sure that it functions well. I want you to read this scripture with that in mind, okay? 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 14. For the body does not consist of one member, but many. Let me say that again. This church process that we got going on called NorthRoad does not consist of Matt coming up here and telling you things every week, and that is church. Instead of it being one person, the Bible says, it is many members. If the foot should say, this is verse 15, if the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, because that would not make it any less part of the body. Let me explain what that means. I could have walked in when my wife got sick and she goes, hey man, I need you to step up and take care of her. I go, not gonna happen. I didn't sign up to be mom, signed up to be dad. I play baseball, don't wipe backsides, right? I could have said that, right? But does it make me any less a part of the family? No. I just make my family suffer, right? But what ends up happening sometimes in church? Well, I ain't the pastor. I'm not the guy. That guy gets paid to do that. That youth pastor, he gets paid to do that. Those elders, that's their calling. I'm just an attender. I just come and I get something out of it. I just want to go back home, right? If you have signed a covenant to be a member at NorthRoad Community Church, then here's what you have to understand. You are a stockholder. You are a member of the body. You are as responsible and as important to what God is doing at NorthRoad as Matt Bartig is. And if you think you're any less, then you're probably not functioning the way God created you to, and it's causing our church and others of us to suffer. We have got to see one vision that takes our church one direction. Let me read this to you. Verse 16, and if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I don't belong to the body, that wouldn't make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? And if the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, God arranged the members of the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, and yet one body. And then go down to verse 26. I want you to see this. If one member suffers, everyone suffers. If one member rejoices, every member rejoices. If one member is honored, every member is honored. Why? Because while I'm one part, you're one part, and you're one part, and you're one part, and you have a role, and you have a role, and you have a role. And a lot of us in a church setting sometimes can sit back and go, oh man, there's so many people to do that stuff. I don't want to get involved. Then you shouldn't have signed the covenant. Because we're a team. We're a body. We're one. God is going to do amazing things at NorthRoad. But it's not because he gave me a vision, or it's not because I came up with some idea and you come in and you go, yeah, that's Matt's thing. Here's what has to happen. It has to go away from being Matt's thing, because first of all, let's back up a little bit. I was praying one day. God gave me this. I brought it to you, right? As a member of my body, I brought it to you. And here's what he's wanting us to do. Not for you to look at me and go, man, that's Matt's idea of what we need to do next. It's where we all grasp it and hold on to it like it's ours, right? If I came in your house and started throwing rocks, would you like it? No, because it's yours, right? So if somebody comes in here and wants to destroy it, would you like it? No, not if you own it. It should be ours, and we should protect it with everything that we are. And we should lift it up, and we should strive to make this place what Christ has called it to be. And that is a light on a hill in a county that desperately needs Jesus. My question is this. As a church, will we see ourselves as the hands, the feet, the ears, the eyes, the head, the body? How do we do that? Let me show you. I think it's pretty simple. If you got your Bible, do me a favor real quick and go to the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah's in the Old Testament. It's on page 309. It's a joke. Never mind. All Bible pages are different. Never mind. Anyway. Okay. It's going to come up here. I want to give you a little bit of overview of what's going on in the book of Nehemiah. The people of Israel have been destroyed 2 or 3 times. And the easiest way to destroy a country is to tear down its walls. Because if you tear down its walls at a time when you don't have bullets, right? You have arrows and you have whatever you're throwing at them. You need to have the walls down so that you can hit them. You get the wall down, you set the wall on fire, you destroy the wall, you can destroy the people at a much easier rate, okay? Now, at this time, Nehemiah is the cupbearer for a king in a different area called Artaxerxes. Okay? Not the area is Artaxerxes, the king is Artaxerxes. And you have to understand something. Does anybody know what a cupbearer is? Here's what a cupbearer was. If you were the king, you had a cupbearer, and that cupbearer would stand at your side, and when somebody would bring wine in, or they would bring something to drink in, or they would bring something to eat in, you would drink it or eat it first. If you died, the king didn't eat it because somebody poisoned it, and you don't want the king to have that poison, so the cupbearer had a tough job, right? And that was Nehemiah's job. He was cupbearer to Artaxerxes. There's a guy, as we're going to read, Hanani, who comes to talk to Nehemiah. And here is what he says. Let me find the page. Nehemiah chapter 1. Here's what it says. The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. Now it happened in the month of Chislev, because we all have that month. In the 20th year, as I sat in Susa, the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brothers, came with certain men from Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews who escaped, who had survived the exile, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the remnant there in the province who has survived the exile is in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are destroyed by fire. And all of a sudden, here's what happened. I'm just going to paint this for you if I can. Nehemiah looks at that and goes, oh my gosh, Could Nehemiah see what was going on? No, obviously he wasn't there. But here's what he pictured. Little boys and little girls, half-torn clothes, dirt all over their face, wandering the roads because somebody killed both their parents in a war. He saw moms that had been abused and raped and beaten and left half for dead. He saw the men that were left totally emasculated and beaten down and sitting in the corner confused on how they were going to take care of their family because this wall's down and these people that destroyed them can come back anytime and do the same carnage that they just did to them. And he saw that and he just broke. When I came here in 2013, you know what I saw? I saw a town that was drastically in need of helping families. We were watching divorce at a rapid rate around here. We were watching drug abuse at a rapid rate. We were watching families who didn't know Jesus, that maybe knew who God was but didn't know what a relationship with God was. And man, God said, go home. And so I went home. That's why I'm here. For those of you guys that don't know me, I grew up here and I came back. Now, why do I say that? Because Nehemiah got a word from God, and here's what God said. You need to go to Artaxerxes, basically, and let him know that you want to go home and just fix the wall. So he did. And then he headed home. And here's what he said. He stood before all the people, and he talked to them because he knew they were downcast and they were downtrodden about their wall. And he said, I can't do this on my own. If we are going to accomplish the vision of this, here's what's going to have to happen. Every arm, every hand, every eye, every ear, every piece of the body is going to have to function. And what happened is amazing. The next thing that happened in this vision is amazing because it says, I want to read it to you real quick, just read you the verse because it's one small sentence, but it's so huge. Then Eliashib, the high priest, rose up with his brothers the priests, and they built the sheep gate in front of their house. They restored the gate that's set in front of their house. And then it says, the next thing that happened was the sons of Manasseh built the fish gate. And you began to watch not a few people getting up and doing a ton of work. You watched each person right in front of their house go, well, I can fix that portion of the wall. I can do this. I can do this. And you watched all the way down. Malachijah, the son of Rechab, the ruler of the district of Beth Hekram, repaired the dung gate. Who wants that job? Right? That's the poop gate. Nobody wants that. Right? But he did that. That was in front of his house. Okay? After him, Meremoth, the son of Uriah, the son of Hekaz, repaired another section of the door of the house of Eliashib. And above the horse gate, the priests repaired, each one opposite to his own house. See, here's what happened is they went, man, we are the body. And if we're going to accomplish this, we've got to accomplish this together. You know what that means? That in this next year, when we do women's ministry, we have to see ourselves, ladies, as the body. And you need to rise up and take care of one another and support one another. As men, we need to do the same thing in men's ministry. We need to see that if there's a need in the back in children's, that we don't wait until somebody comes and talks to us. We go talk to the lady that runs children's, or the two ladies, and say, how can we help? Then we show up on a Wednesday night at 6 o'clock for student ministry, and we go, hey, I don't know much about students, or you know what, I haven't had any for a while, but I want to serve. We stand in the parking lot and greet people because we want them to know NorthRoad's great. Here's a simple one for you. We sit in the same seat every Sunday. And the 20 or so chairs in your little area, what if every time a visitor came just to your little area, you came and greeted them and let them know who you were and sat and talked to them until the service started so they didn't feel weird? That is all of us going, I have ownership. I have stock in this company and I want it to succeed. Some of us will sit here and we'll go, well, nobody's ever asked me. Can you imagine what would have happened to Judah had they all just looked at Nehemiah and go, well, nobody's ever specifically asked me. The wall would be broken down. Those people would be ravaged over and over and over again. Can I tell you something? Satan is ravaging our county right now in a plethora of ways. And when we sit back and we go, well, nobody's asked me, we are allowing him to ravage this community over and over and over again. When we could be the ones that are being ministry, that are water to the thirsty. Or we could be the church. But here's what's got to happen. It can't be Matt's vision. It's got to be ours. This next year is going to be amazing. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt. You know, whenever you start a church, you always have hiccups. Our very first Easter egg hunt, does anybody remember that? What a train wreck that was. For those of you that weren't around here, let me tell you what happened. We decided that we would have 5,000 eggs, because that's a lot. And at least in our mind it was. Amber's sitting in the back. Amber, that was a lot of eggs back then. And we remembered, okay, that we wanted to make sure that we publicized this, so we bought not one, but 2 billboards in town. 3,000 people showed up for 5,000 eggs. Do that math. And then you have little kids who are really good at collecting eggs, and so they collect like 30. And then you have like 40 kids over here don't get any, and they're crying at you, and their parents hate you. And we're sitting here going, what did we just unearth, right? But we learned our lesson. This last year we had 30,000 eggs. This year we're going to have 50,000 eggs. Last year we had somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 people. We expect somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 this year. Why? Because we want people to know about Christ, right? And what's the cost of an Easter egg and us packing them together and us giving out hamburgers and us going out and loving on people and telling them about the service we'll have on Easter? If we do that as a team, how many people's lives could we change? What if we just caught one family at the Easter egg hunt this year that totally changed them, and they went back and changed their entire cousins, uncles, moms, dads, grandparents? Isn't that worth it? Isn't that what God's called us to? If we love Jesus, isn't that what we're called to? Sports ministry this year, man, we have doubled it in the last 2 to 3 years. Man, we have an opportunity there. We need guys that are going to step up in this next year and say, hey, I don't know a lot, but I can coach a football team, right? I can go and ref a football game because, man, I want to do that. And do not think that you can just sit there and go, well, I'll just wait till somebody asks me. Somebody as big as our church is getting may not come and ask you. You need to go up and show up and go, hey, what do I got to do? Give me a whistle. Let's go. I want to be a part of this thing. This is mine. I have ownership in this thing. Guatemala is going to come back around. Man, I want some of you guys that have never went on a mission trip into foreign soil, you got to get in there. Some of you guys, for the very first time, you've been praying about fostering or adopting a kid. You're going to do that this year because this is yours. This is your ownership. And then here's one of the biggest things that's going to happen this year. Darren Casaubon's back there, and he and I have been praying for about, 2 months now, Darren? And we are tonight putting together a task force. One of the biggest threats I think that we have against NorthRoad, okay, is that because we've grown so fast, connection is hard, right? Me trying to go and help 600 people is very tough, okay? So one of the things we've done is we're putting together this task force tonight that is going to start a 1 to 5 or 6 discipleship process. We're going to call it 1 to 1, but we're going to do a 1 to 6 discipleship process. And here's what's happening in this, just a little short version, is a guy like Dale is going to take 5 other guys, and he's going to disciple them once a month. He's going to call them. He's going to go out to eat with them. He is going to be the pastor in their life. If we start with Dale and 5 others, and then he teaches those 5 to go get 5, and those 5 teach 5 to go get 5, by January 1, 2017, okay, I can't believe we're already talking about that. By January 1, 2017, we could have over 100 men that are discipling one another. In 6 months from now, we're going to start a track for ladies, okay? Which means by 6 months from now, a year from now, we could have over 100 ladies discipling one another. You know what that means? That means when they have a problem, they don't have to come to me anymore because they may or may not be able to get a hold of me, but they can always get a hold of Dale because he's their guy. And we're going to watch our church go out and explode because of this. And as a church, can I just tell you, right now, pray hard that we get this started correctly because it could transform the lives of the people in our church. Our biggest threat is space, right? And so here's what I want to show you about our biggest threat. Will you grab it, Kevin? The ushers are coming around in the back and in the front, and they're going to hand you a piece of paper. It's going to look a lot like your bulletin, but it's going to have a rendering of the drawings of our new church. Okay? I'm going to try and explain to you what's going to happen because this is where we are going to have to join together in order to accomplish a lot. It looks like this. You're going to get one of those. See that? There you go. Look at it again. Okay. You need your glasses? Should I have made it like this big? I just thought if I move, she's not going to be able to see me. I got to move. Sorry, service. My bad. But they're going to hand these out to you. It'll take just a few seconds. I want to give you an opportunity to get it in your hand. There you go. We're not giving them to everybody if you're a kid, a child, or whatever. We're just going to hand them to your parents, but you can look off of them. Okay? We are packing every single week somewhere between 550 and 600 people. Well, we will be this spring. 550 to 650 people in this building every single week. 8,900 square feet, right? Some of you people around here, you may have a house that big, I don't know. But 8,900 square feet is not big when you're talking about a church, okay? Now, what we are doing is out on our property, this is our very first rendering of what it looks like for our new church. To give you some perspective, this entire building is 20,000 square feet, okay? This building right here will allow us to have 14,000 square foot of education space, 10,000 square foot of commons to put like a coffee shop, welcome center, all those kind of things, because y'all have proved you like your coffee. Expansion for Celebrate Recovery and other ministries we're going to do over here, a back of house area to get to our worship center, an admin area for our offices, and then an auditorium that will hold 750 people, okay? We will always have to do 2 services, but this would give us the ability, okay? This would give us the ability to get everybody in the house on the same day, okay? And facilitate the ministry that God has put forth here at NorthRoad. Now, this is 36,000, I think, 36,000 square feet. Did I mention we're in 8,900 right now? This is 36,000, okay? That is going to take all of us understanding that God has a bigger vision and a bigger dream and a bigger picture than what anybody has ever anticipated in Lincoln County before. And we're going to have to come together, shoulder to shoulder, own this thing, not see it as Matt's vision or somebody else's idea, but as your church that you want to see God facilitate amazing things through. Just for a second, kind of run with me. Imagine if this auditorium is open and we watch 20 lives get changed in one Sunday. Imagine if Celebrate Recovery happens and you watch a husband and a wife not only restore their marriage, but get off drugs. Imagine if you have children that come in on a Sunday morning and come to know Jesus for the very first time, or students that come in and have a horrible home life, but when they come here, they're safe and they come to know who Christ is. That's what this building does. It's not brick and mortar, it's life. And that's what we want to create out there is life. Step 2, because here's the deal. Some of you go, well, isn't that big enough? No, because the moment we stop growing is the moment we start dying, and we're never going to stop growing. And so here's what it looks like when we go into step 2. Let me show you one other thing about this. This right here, we've built so that it's an auditorium, but it's also a gym, so a gymatorium. Anyway, but it's going to have the space for a gym, and then it's going to, instead of having a makeshift stage, it'll have a built-in stage that you don't have to take down and set up every Sunday. So when we get over to phase 2, this wall, I don't know if I can show you, this wall right here comes down, okay, and turns into 2 gymnasiums and allows us not to hold 750 seats, but allows us to hold 1,500 seats. Then you'll notice we have an entrance here and we have an entrance back here. This becomes the very first stage of our Christian school we're getting ready to build. Okay, does that make sense? So what'll happen, I don't know if you've ever went to a Christian school where you have a horrible parking issue because you have people coming to church and you have people coming to school and they all run into each other. People will check their kids in at school on the back side, and people that are coming to the church for church reasons will come to the front, on the front side. Does that make sense? And then the only other expansion you'll see is the school happening. In about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, you're going to see the entire 20-year plan. You'll see the Crisis Pregnancy Center that's placed out. If you look at your 3 pictures, you'll see a conceptual layout. All I want you to see on conceptual layout is how it sits on the property. These fields that you're seeing is just to give you an understanding of size proximity. Does that make sense? Okay, so what you're going to watch, you see these 2 fields in the front? At the bottom of every one of these pictures is Highway 61 to give you some perspective, okay? You can see Comtech, they put Comtech on there so you can kind of see how it's going to lay next to Comtech. We're going to get some big trees. All right. Only a few of you got that. All right. Where these fields are, we're going to put water. Okay, so there's going to be a large pond in the front, and then you'll go across the pond onto the property. The school will be in the back and all the fields and everything. If you notice that, that is 57 acres. We own 125 acres, okay? We will be able to sell some of that acreage down the road here in order to pay off the debt that's going to come by building this building, all right? We're hoping 4 or 5 years down the road as land begins to grow, you guys really need to be praying about this, but as land begins to grow here in this area, that we would be able to use that money to pay way down our debt, okay? All of this being said, this town is sick. It's got hurting, lost, wandering people in it. And as owners, like I had to step up in my family It's time for us to step up in our family, to stop sitting on the sidelines, to not allow ourselves to become complacent and gossipy, but to make ourselves be more interested in the vision than what other people's problems are, and to focus on what Christ is not only doing in our life, but what he can do in other people's lives. And here's the deal. I'm just going to be transparent with you for a minute in the front and the back, okay? I can't do this on my own. These 3 years have worn me out, right? And here's what I say to that. I'm ready to go a ton more years, but I need some people shoulder to shoulder with me that aren't going, hey, yeah, get it done, buddy, but are ready to go to war, and they're right here. Can I get that from you? Honestly, can we do this together? Because here's the deal. If we do this, I don't even know what God will accomplish through us, but it's going to be amazing and miraculous, and there's going to be people in heaven that we're going to look at and we're going to go, because I took ownership in NorthRoad, you know God. That's what it's about. Will you do me a favor? If you're in the back, why don't you all come up to the front of the church? Will you just come on up? The rest of you, will you all stand? I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit awkward today when everybody gets in here. So we're just going to give them about 20 seconds to get in here. All right, would you do me a favor? Find a person next to you and grab their hand. I want us to connect all the way around this place. Come here, Ren. Hold my hand. Hold my hand, darn it. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody got a hand? Okay, that's good. Okay. If you're willing to walk side by side with me and us go see what God could possibly do with our church, would you just raise your hands up? And let's just give it to God right now. Can we do that? Dear Jesus, as a church, we come to you right now in awe of what you're going to do over these next 20 years in the life of NorthRoad. Father, I pray that you would allow us to see ourselves as one unified body. That when one hurts, we all hurt. When one rejoices, we all rejoice. And that, God, we have a call to go through this county and see people's lives change from the inside out. Father God, I just pray that as a church, we would stand united. And then, Lord, shoulder to shoulder, we would build something in your name and for your glory that would facilitate lives change for years to come. God, help us to accomplish your greatest vision this year in 2016. And it's in your name I pray. Amen. Have an awesome week. See you next one in North.